Aya, karibuni sana. Tigi headphones. Kawuono antiere both YouTube, one Facebook to one Clubhouse. Kendo one akiani one Twitter. No, one gimoro ni Twitch. Koro adwaro ni mondo gik moko te ji obed en the same thing. Luo English Dictionary kamora mora ma intiere. Koro ka inenowa e mbui tinyalo nenowa e Facebook kata inyalo nenowa e YouTube. Kawuono adwa ni mondo wawuo e weche mag vowels mag dholuo. To nitie vowels mang'eny, wadwa mana wacho matin then watieka. Adwaro timo confirmation kabe wasedonje e Facebook. Gigi ng'eni sani samoro inya paro ni nitie online to kara gik moko onge te. E jok madonjo arwakou kabisa. Digital, karibu sana. Wachiew maber. Karibu.
Maber.
Iwinjowa?
Awinjo malong'o kabisa. Achiemo kar kae.
Oh. Wawacho dholuo ka, wadwa puonjore dholuo. Kawuono watimo introductions. Ng'eruok, wadwa ng'ere. Then ang'e wawach weche mag vowels. Koro maybe inyalo ulorinwa. Tiwache gi dholuo.
Rashid Musa, achiemo kar kae pod chiemo nya nini.
Nyalo wiyi.
Nyalo tea.
Sawa, winji. Sama pod ochiemo no, adwa ni mondo wadhi e vowels. So, atemo keto gini endi online mondo jok man online bende onewa. To vowels mwachako go gin vowels kaka Luo wan gi vowels mang'eny. Wan gi vowels nikech vowels gima ang' ne ichak ng'eyo go kaka idimbo wach. Koro kaka a e i o u mano to wan godo kaka joluo. Gima dwa timo en ni en mani jok mantiere e Facebook kod YouTube to neno gik mawacho. But joma ntiere Clubhouse bende un bunyalo wuoyo nikech kuwuoyo to jogo dhi winjo. Atemo kete ma kuwuoyo to jogo dhi winjowa. Koro wan gi a e i o u. Then wan gi ba, be, bi, bo, bu. Adwa ni mondo ng'ato miwa weche machako gi ba, be, bi, bo, bu. Kinya paro wach mora mora machako gi ba, be, bi, bo, bu. Mora mora. To joma neno ero wache.
Besen ama it's besen.
Besen. Besen en dholuo. Apenjo gi muolo.
Kosen corrupted okang'eyo lakini we achak paro gi yara.
Besen nyabe dholuo. Ing'e gima timre gi dholuo en niya. Kaka wamedo dak e kaka wamedo bet gi weche mang'eny, to weche gi wagolo kuom gine moko, kuom languages moko. Gik moko kaka besen ne waonge go. Wan gi gik moko kaka atonga, odheru, ing'eyo. Mago gik mane wan godo, mane wakano godo pi, mane wakano godo chiemo. Then gik moko kaka besen odonjo. Koro besen kodonjo to wakia ni watim nang'o. Emo wachako ni koro wan biluongo marwa ni besen. Koro inyalo bet nin kare. Ok nin iwacho miriambo.
Awinji.
Erokamano. Aya. Ng'at machielo. Ba, be, bi, bo, bu. Wach moro amora manya chako gi wechego. Bet. Bet. Aha. Bet. B. B-I. B.
B-E-T.
A. Bet. Bet en B-E-T. Correct. Aya. Wach machielo. B-I.
Biye.
Biye. Biye nang'o?
Ini termite.
Adwa mana mondo jomoko owinj. Mar ang'wen. Bo. Bo. B-O. Bo.
Bor.
Bor. Bor translated nang'o?
Tall.
Tall.
Ose long. Bor.
Bor.
B-O-R.
E.
En gima bor.
Bor.
Tall kose.
Ntie bor, ntie bor.
I'm talking of bor mar tall or long, not bor mar ringo.
Oh. Dong gite gina bor. Gite gin bo.
Yeah.
Erokamano.
B-O-R.
Koro bor might mean far. You mean far. Don't. Distance mabor. Don't. Koro far.
Yes.
Yes. Then kodonje C wan gi cha, che, chi, cho, chu. Cha, che, chi, cho, chu. And ng'ama nigi wach mar cha, kata che, kata chi, kata cho, kata chu. Chak. Ilalna.
Chak. C-H-A-K.
Ero, chak. Ero kamano, chak. Next. Che mar?
Chenro.
Chenro. Ero kamano,
Yes.
chenro. Chenro. Then chi.
Chiro.
Chiro. Cho. Cho. Cho be nyalo bet ginene. Cho be nyalo bet iluongo nang'o? Oh. Cho. Adagi wachno. Chopo. Chopo. Then mar abich, chu.
Chupa.
Chupa. Chula. Yes, chula, erokamano. Cha, che, chi, cho, chu. Aya. Wadhi e da. Da, de, di, do, du. Ero wawinji. Erokamano, wachi. Da, de, di, do, du. Dak. Dak enang gi kisungu.
That can mean to stay somewhere.
Dak.
Most of low languages, tonation makes the meaning varies. You can talk of dak to be a pot.
Erokamano. Dak nyalo bet pot, but the same spelling, don't it? D-A-K.
Yes, same spelling.
Idwa miyowa da, de, di, do, du no te, koso idwa mana dak kendo tiwe wang kanyo.
Dongen tuak jomoko bo wacho weche moko.
Sawa. Ai, ng'at machielo ni nyawacho. De?
Oh, the ultimate war.
Ng'ama nigi deck. Oh, deck. Erokamano, deck. Deck en spider plant. Iluongo ni spider plant gi dho ngere. Dipo. Yacho ni
D-I-P-O.
iwacho nang'o? Ebu pronounce wachno.
Dipo.
Meaning ne nang'o?
Dala.
Mano is one way mar wacho dala. Kigo dala tiwacho ni agoyo dipo. Then D-O.
D-O.
Wanie D-O. Donge. Translate no donge gi English. Kota mito ng'ato miwa.
Is it treat?
Sindio.
Awinji. Donge en isn't it? Maradier. Andrew Munyi joining us in Facebook. Owacho ni hi. Andrew Munyi, I hope you're enjoying the conversation. We are both live on Facebook, Clubhouse, Twitter, YouTube, and all these other social platforms. And right now we are just going through vowels. And the vowels, we are trying to look at the words in the vowels. We are trying to get the meanings of the words as we just struggle through. So you can also just type a word with in the vowel da, de, di, do, do, and then I'll read it out on Facebook. Just type, I'll be able to see the comments. Karibu sana, Andrew. Atemo manage joga gigi nene. Gigi koro ka ng'eny kama to nitie kaka moko lal. Aya, du. Duk. To miwa meaning mar duk. Gi English.
Naked.
Wasedhie A, B, C, D. Koro wadhie D ntiere ma DHA. To DHA en dha. Koro dha, dhe, dhi, dho, dhu. Miwa uru weche mag dha, dhe, dhi, dho, dhu. Ng'ama ni godo to chaka. Dhano. Yes, dhano. Oh, iwacho dhao. Mano pod en mana DHA, koro mano kare. Dhawo. And then the second one, DHE. Dhero. Slimming and dhero.
Ukonda anakia. Kamodhero, en ng'ama puot, ng'at ma dende onge.
Ng'at morume ground. Laviko kinyalo wacho nwa dhero. Dhero en ang'o gi English? Thin. Ng'ama en thin. Thin. Kizungu moro wacho ni famished. Ng'ama nigi gine sama kech obiro to ng'ato ka odhero iwacho ni en famished. Koro iwacho ni
Famine.
from famine, yes.
Okay.
Wadhi e DHI.
Dhiang.
Dhiang. Then DHO.
Dog.
Dhok. Ne wan sewacho dhiang'. Be nitiere ginene moro mopogore? As in tie word moro mopogore monya tiyo godo kar DHO. Ero wache wajina? Dot. Yes, dot. And then mogik and DHU.
Thum.
Thum and
Thum is
T. Thum and TH.
Oh, sawa.
Dog.
yeah, there's doom.
Doom, yes, doom. To doom and timang. The English.
Doom is to speak in tongues.
To speak in
Eloquently. Ng'ato kowinjo kiwacho English to wacho ni jalno dhum.
mano nyiso nang'o?
In a church setup, it might mean speaking in tongues nikech iwuoyo e weche moko winji.
Okay, To ginene to kiwacho English to ng'ato dhum. In English, kidwa wache gi English en wacho nang'o?
Maybe speak in a foreign language.
Aparo. Nikech ing'e ni kane jo wagunda nodonjo Kenya, kata nodonjo piny Luo, negi dhum, nowacho ni gidhum nikech nok wawinj gik ma giwacho. Koro dhum might be speaking in a foreign language. En mani wan wang'iyo ni ng'ama dhum en ng'ama wacho gine, ng'ama wacho kizungu. Akia ka that is the correct translation. David, karibu juu. Mfalme, karibu juu. Karibuni juu. Idhuru malo. Mondo en mana twak matin, onge pressure. Mfalme, karibu juu. There's no pressure. Aya, wadhi e F. Fa, fe, fi, fo, fu. Fa, fe, fi, fo, fu.
Skip
E mane?
A.
Ne wasetimo.
Vowels.
Vowels ne wasedhi. Wane fa, F-A. Kinano YouTube, if you're joining us on YouTube, you can also comment, and we shall be able to see your comment, and we shall use that for the discussion. Thank you so much for joining us. Words that begin with the letter F-A. Words that begin with the letter F-A. YouTube or Facebook, I shall be able to see your comments, and then I will put them up for discussion. Sandy Otamore. Lawiko, mute yourself. Nyathini no. Lawi, mute yourself. Nyathini no. Omor kodwa kabisa. Onge Otamore. Fa, fe, fi, fo, fu.
I can't get fa, I can't get fe. Fi, I got fito.
Fito. Ere kaka fa onge?
Ano tama, ok anyal kata paro wad mar fa. We atemane matin.
Wajina inya paro fa mono.
Kata bende okanyal.
Ah. Onge. Ala, Dholuo karo gin.
Ng'eni literally F tin e luo sana. Inyalo winjo ka dawa chon ne giwuoyo to giluongo kar F giketo H. Mafuta will be called mauta. So ing'eni yudo F tek. Watemo lakini.
An gachiel iluongo ni fayo. Fayo bende iluongo ni fwayo. Jomoko wacho ni fwayo to jomoko ne wacho ni fayo. And fayo means to bid farewell. Ang'e ni en mix mar fa gi ginene gi fwa. Mane man godo. Ng'at machielo nyalo wacho. Ng'ama nigi fe. Fe onge. Fe ana onge go. Any word that begins with the letter fe.
Unless fair, yeah.
Ero fair. And fair cha en ginene. En Dholuo dong. Cause en mix mar Dholuo gi ginene moro. Katunja enang.
Katunja en fair, but dialects opogre. Koro inyalo yudo ni Kisumu iluonge ni Katunja, Alego iluonge ni fair.
Koro waket fair. Kanyo waket fair. Aya, fi. Fi, e Dholuo ntie fito. Fito ntie fito. Mani wacho cha. Ntie fiko. Fiko is to sniff. Koro fiko fito gi ntie fi mana fi kamano. To fi wacho ni en gine. Noise of wind passing through the trees. Noise of wind passing through the trees. Mano en fi. Morin aneno kisedonjo e Facebook kanyo. Miwa wach machako gi the letter F-O. Kinya yudo nwa. Morina, karibu sana. Natusikiza kutoka Facebook. Then mogik en F-U. Ng'ama nigi F-U. Fulu. Fulu en ang'o gi Dholuo? Gi dho ginen? Gi dho Kisungu? Ati omena matindo. Ati omena matindo. Akia nyinge gi ginene. But apani an kod an gi video moro e YouTube manaseketo nyaka nyinge. Nasetimo research ne. Or wood bora. Wan gi fullo. Wan gi... Irwache? Fuo. Fuo gi Dholuo nang. Gi English nang. Who is a fool? Good. Then wadhi e G. G en ga, ge, gi, go, gu. Ng'ato miwa ga to ng'ato miwa ge to wago tata to wadhi to watieko. Ga? Gam. Gam en ang'o?
Gam gimoro.
Oh, okay. Gam gimoro. Aparo ni gamo. Iwacho ni gamo ma en go between. Gam, gam bentie. Ing'e ni gamo en bet a mediator or a go between or a matchmaker. Gam biluongo ni gam. Mar Dholuo to embe ni GA. Embe ni GA. Chewing gum. Wadhi e GE. Ge. Geno. Geno en ang'o gi dho ngere? Hope. Geno. Geno ok en confidence.
translating from Luo to English te.
Geno can expecting something, don't?
An expectation, yes. Geno and expecting something. Koro expectation ginene injili and belief. Apani kuma hope donje. Belief and geno. And gi belief. And then there is also confidence. And then what the GI? G. GI. Gino enango gi dongere.
Gino and like something. It's like point. When you look at something small when you're belittling someone, but it can also be. I think it has two meanings when you're belittling someone and then that thing.
Ero kamano, yes. Then Morin wacho ni geno is to trust. Gintiere Facebook. Ngato ntie YouTube ilong ni Weaverbird wacho ni. Owacho opuoyo. Wacho ni Weaverbird is saying, "Hi good people from the lakeside. You'll be remembered by history for putting this important work online." Koro unte wacho ni ero kamano kuom konyo ji wacho wechegi. Then GI moko ntiere kaka giko, that is the end of the boundary. Ntiere gido. Gido is to tickle. Then ntiere gidho. Gidho, Gidho. Gidho means to turn outward or to project forward. Kaka ginene, kaka tung dhiang. Ogidhore oko. Kawach ni ogidhore oko, it means it is pointing forward. Okay. Wadhi GO. GO. Gonywa. Gi Kisungu. Antires.
Keepers.
Ni?
To bailers out in Kizungu. Bailers out.
Bailers out, yes. Bailers out. Bailers out. Gonywa. Mano bailers out. En mani koro josiasa okawe. Bailing out mar josiasa en mar golo pesa kata golo gimoro. And the last one en GU. GU. Namane gi wach mar GU. Guok. Guok. Moro kendo?
En word marach ma.
Gumo is is to be iluongo nango? Is to bend.
Yeah.
Gunda. Gunda en ang'o? Ng'ama nyalo wacho gima gunda en?
Dala ma ji onge. Otho orumo.
Dala ma ji orumo. Gudo. To collect. Morin wacho ni gudo. Erokamano. GU. Ne wadhi e H. H be wan go. Ha, he, hi, ho, hu. Be wan gi H e Luo adier. H-A.
Hamiero.
Hey, dhi mabor manareno. Hamiero. Hamiero. Miwa tiende.
Ing'eyo na jalego kwa hivyo wan ga gi weche moko chal gi dholuo moko. Hamiero is like
it is used for okay, en gima itiyo godo e kano gimoro. Awachi.
Yes. Kano gimoro kata kuoro oduma kidwa dhi rego, something like that.
Okay. Ochal gi gine, the mar winnowing ni. Ilongo nang'o? Odheru.
Ochal mano baten.
Wadhi e H-O. H-O. Pagina isa nindo? Holo. Kik wachiegni tieko. Holo en holo cha nang'o?
Holo like borrowing.
Okay. Ntiere holo. Oh, that is mano holo. Holo. To ini wacho holo.
Yeah.
To ntiere gine. Holo, the noun might mean a valley or a slope. And then ntiere holo, which is a borrow or to lend. Then the last one, who? H-U. H-U ngata manyalo miyo wach. Achako. Hucho. Hucho means to pass quickly or to fly by. Or hucho. Any other? Hucho. H-U. Tamore. What are the last 5? Then watieka makawuono. Magini ja, je, ji, jo, ju. Koro kunya yudo ja, je, ji, jo, ju. Ngata manya yudo to miyowa ja. And then we go to je. Je. Ngata manya yudo je. Jo Facebook bonindo. Ntie jela. Andy has liked the stream. Thank you, Andy. Jela, ntiere jela. J-E. Ntie jemo. Jemo is to incite or to incite rebellion. That is to make people cause a rebellion. Mano jemo. Jomoko wacho ni jemo. Then ntie jeno. Ng'amo ng'eyo gima jeno en? Jeno. Jeno. Simon, karibu sana. Kae ndi wapuonjre mana dholuo. Wawacho mana dholuo kaendi. Kawuono wawacho vowels. We are live on Facebook. We are live on Clubhouse and YouTube. Koro, we have a few people in all the platforms. Koro, I'm trying to coordinate all of them. Koro, kiwuoyo to gidhi winji kuonde gote. Erokamano. Jeno en timo nade? Nyiswa, you understand jeno ni enang'o?
Jeno paro ni en gine kaka loko kucha miki loko kucha to ngi jeni koso.
Jeno ineno kuon ma ginene, kuon modong' godhiambo. Kakoro ing'eni chon kan watedo kuon to ne wachako gi kao kuon to ginene wakuongo wakete ei pi. Sami sonyo kuon ei pi kuon manodong' cha. That act miluongo ni jeno. Okay. So essentially it means recycling. Jeno en
Jeno nitie nyaka kaminyalo tiye kode ni ijeno wach. En ni idok chien e wach
idok chien kabisa. Idok e wach nyaka nwachaki ni pod ine e ginene mane wawachono. Mano jeno. So then mar adek nitiere je ma ng'ato ng'eyo? Je moro. Nitie jeno, nitiere Nitie jemo, wacho jela, wacho jemo, wacho jeno. Nitie jedo. Jedo. Be nitiere ng'ama ong'e gima jedo en?
Tieko te. Ojedo county.
Jedo ok en tieko te. Nitie jedo. Jedo nitiere ma iluongo ni to filter. To filter is en jedo. Okay. And then kapok wagine Felix and someone else called What You Mean. What You Mean gi Felix. Miwa uruwach. Maybe we'll just give you a minute to introduce yourselves. Could I introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I actually don't speak the law. I only understand it because I was born in Sweden, so I'm just listening in.
Okay.
I'm actually trying to learn the language. It's like I don't know how to describe it, but there's like a blockage. When I hear you talking, I understand you, but for some reason I can't communicate. I can't put the sentences together. So I don't know how to fix it, to be honest, because there's not a Luo language class.
Oh, now you're here. This is a Luo language class. So this is the intention of this club, to just teach the people who know and those who don't know how to come together and talk.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for joining us. And also we have a lot of YouTube videos that are teaching how to just speak basic languages. You can go to my bio or Luo English Dictionary on YouTube, and then you can just see the playlists. We have a lot of playlists that give you words and how to put them in sentences, and just how to speak, how to make conversation.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll make sure to follow you as well.
Thank you so much. And Felix, idwaro wacho wach matin?
Erokamano.
Hey.
Ananeno link e Twitter. Gimomiyo abiro konya is the first time Clubhouse.
Oh, ero, waneno ka omi party hat pod in wendo e Clubhouse. But that's
Mano mar wendo.
Onge shida.
Wendo.
And
I'm glad Dholuo tek wuoyo matin lakini abotemo.
In jaluo? Koso
an jaluo.
Oh, en mana ni ok idong.
Odak Nairobi mang'eny.
Oh, to koro nyithindi wacho dhok mane?
An pod atin.
Oh, okay. Awe kanyo. Awe gi kanyo. Sawa. Karibu. Aselui. Koro wan gi program ni kaka iri watch kendo, like just to learn how to speak. What the GI? Dongene JI, sorry. JI. Ngama nigi wache JI. G is one of them. G gin people. Then jiero en timo nang'o? Jiero.
Belt.
Yes, to belch. Jigo. Ng'ata manya temo jigo. Jigo wach. Lawi miwa jigo wach. Digital miwa jigo wach king'eyo. Jigo has two meanings. Jigo is to charge falsely or to invent something on somebody. Then there is also stab a place that is sore. Kama ochiegno kendo ichaki ijigo. Manyiso ni kama ne lit ichaki jigo. Carol Atieno wacho ni jingo encourage. Carol ero kamano pod wane jigo. But jingo correct. Jingo encourage. Ene Facebook wacho ni jingo. Then nitie ng'ama nigi J moro. G wasewacho. People. Any other? Then wadhi J and J-O. J-O. Joke enang.
En gima dhiang' puro godo cha, I don't know, it's called joke. Mikete ng'ut dhiang' sama dhiang' is plowing.
Kisungu dwoko ni yok. Ero kamano. Joke. Mora kendo. Any other?
Joke. People of.
Joke. People of. Kaka joka jok. Joka jok nwa puonjore mang'eny kabisa gine. E school. Jony is to be tired. Joot. Then tie jot. Jot enang'o?
Dak briefly kang'ato.
Dak briefly. Yes, exactly. Jot and temporary, to take temporary accommodation e dala ng'ato or to in a person's place. Jot. Then that is be tired of or be annoyed of somebody or to give up on. Mano is correct. You can also joke gingato. That's correct. Thank you, Simon. Jogo.
Like the other people, right? Is that correct?
Yes, those people. Jogo. So jogo. Those people. Correct. The last one in Ju. J-U. Hey, watch penji.
Miane nyakoman piny kanyo abiro enya Uganda to enya luo ma Uganda tribe miluongo ni Komamo. Miane ma ikobire maloka.
Asemi nyise gi English nikech chal ni ok gin.
Abiro, grab the mic and come up and just introduce yourself. Abiro, if you can hear me.
Chal ni podo dich matin. Abiro, if you hear, you can just introduce yourself. We are not in pressure. We are not pressuring anybody, but you can just join us so that we encourage everybody to follow. Please follow the club. Just click on the greenhouse on top of next to Dholuo, the greenhouse. Click on it and then click follow so that next time we are online, you can always find us. Now, we are also having a Facebook page, a YouTube channel, and a Twitter handle. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Right now, we are live on all the about 6 on all the 6 social media places. So you can always be sure that you'll find us somehow. Abiro Oringo Digital. Koro watemo. So the last one, we have only 8 minutes left. So the last one in JU. Okay, Abiro is here now. Abiro, Abiro, welcome and please introduce yourself.
Hello. It's evening where I am. So good evening or good morning wherever you are. My name is Abiro Masi. I am a Kumam. It's part of the lower dialect in Uganda. Yeah. I think, is that all?
Thank you. So we want to just ask for a request that you introduce yourself again, but in your dialect. Just talk in your dialect. Everything. Just speak in your dialect so that the rest of us can just enjoy the dialect itself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yoga itie nubenyo. Yoga itie nubenyo. Kamitie nuye tie benyo.
Wow. Ngamowi.
Angonyinga abiro masi. Ayamo lep kumam.
Ngamo winjo gima wacho.
Nyinga ngabiro. Okay. Nyinga ngabiro masi ayamo lep kumam. Ayai kamolongo be alaki. I Uganda kane. Leb manga yamo tie luo. Do luo more mixing kedate so. Yeah.
Beta winjo matin. Jomoko be winjo dia. An beta winjo ni en nyaluo. Ni en nyaluo ma wacho dholuo mo oriwo gi teso.
Yeah, I heard that as well. Yeah.
Erokamano Abirio. Warwaki machiegni.
Awinjo matin, maybe because my mother is from around that area, but I picked a bit of it.
Yeah, and I think leb is the tongue of, right? Like the do. I think it's the same thing as do.
Yes.
I might be wrong. But...
No, you're right. Leb and do, I think, are the same. Are one of the same. So we say Dholuo, they say leb luo. All right. So the last word was JU, and then we can get into a few introductory issues on the Luo language, and then we shall just wind up. So any words that start with JU that you know? And anybody can chime in at any time. Juogi. What is Juogi?
Spirits. Yeah, spirits.
Juogi is actually hysteria. we say they are spirits, but the Western world agrees that it's called hysteria. They're just hysterical people. I don't know if it's true. Any other? Jewel. Ngamongeyo gima jewel en. Jewel.
Jewel is that feeling, eh?
I
think when you're surprised or you're scared.
Yes.
Your body. Think something like that.
When you respond when you're frightened. When you're frightened and you respond, that is called jewel. So when your body, like the hairs on your skin, when they just stand, all of them all of a sudden, it's called jewel. Okay. Then also jewel means cloudy. When it's overcast, it's piny or jewel. That means it's overcast and gloomy. That is jewel. Juala. Juala might be JW though, but Juala is a modern word. I don't think we had Juala by that time. And you mean polythene bag, do you?
Yes, I mean polythene bag or any other thing related to a bag.
Yes, Juala. Okay, thank you. Any other? Anyone being left out?
Juok.
And what is that?
Juok is a bully or an extreme bully.
An extreme bully.
Or guys who
intimidate
people. About that. Yeah, go ahead. from Juogi. Juogi could be some sort of witchcraft or something. And there's Juok is now him mar Juogi. Ngatonyala wacho ni ngani to timona tim Juoka ina maneni, as in to mean it is that action, yeah. Like now there's a cook, and now whatever that Juok is gonna, the act. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
All right, so yes.
And then there's Ojuok. There's also Ojuok. So this Juok, it has been used in very many ways. There's Ojuok. There's from Juok you get Juogi. Then you get Jajuok.
Okay, Jajuok
Okay,
is. Thank you, Abiro. Just your turn.
So from my side, Juok is actually like Jogi. Those are like demons. So if someone tells you in your Juok, like you're something to do with witchcraft, Juok is actually witchcraft.
Yes, and I think Juok also means, it might mean witchcraft. It might mean someone who bewitches people, and someone was saying a bully to mean the act, like when people the people who perform witchcraft. Is that witchcraft, like the ones that come at night and run through the house? Is that witchcraft, or that's different?
That's a sport. It's different.
So that's hey Sandy. Anyway, so that is Juok, and any other word? That's interesting.
Jumapil, the 7th on a Sunday, Idolwe and Jumapil.
Is it? Don't aparo ni mano en Kiswahili.
Jumapil, Kiswahili is Jumapili.
Yeah. So.
How do you call Sunday Idolwe? Donge chieng work teacher ariyo, teacher adek, teacher ang'wen, teacher abich, ngeso Jumapil.
Chieng odira.
But it's a borrowed word though.
Hey, mana is yeah. Jumapili is borrowed from Swahili.
From Swahili.
Yeah, but the correct word is chieng odira. Okay. Yes, odira actually is. I think odira is lemo, don't it? Yeah. So I wanted us to. The online work, I wanted us to reach the letter J. The next Sunday we shall explore more than J. We shall go to K, L, M, N, and all that. But for now, maybe I'll just leave the floor open for suggestions on how to take this forward, and your feedback. So you can just give feedback and suggestions on how to take this forward.
I have a question.
Yes, please, Kevin.
Okay. For me, I'm particularly a Luya, yeah. But I was born in Uganda, yeah. My dad is Kenyan, and my mom is from Rwanda. So, but I was born here. I was born in Uganda. But what has always like baffled me a lot is Luyas. Why do Luyas? Okay, like most tribes that fall in the Luya tribe. Like we have Luyas, we have Kisis, we have Kiritos, we have Banyala, we have even these Samias of Kenya.
Yeah.
We have even the Bagisu. Why do they like kind of some names they always like kind of like borrow from Luo. For example, my brother is called Onyango, yeah, but he's a Luya. My other brother is called who? Is called Ochieno, yes, but they are not Luos, they are Luyas. Why is that?
And the floor is open. Please do.
intermarriages that have been happening, people borrowing names and all that kind of stuff. Because I have a friend, he's Luya, but he's called Ouma. The first time I heard of that name, Ouma, thought like... Yeah, my uncle is also called Ouma. I even thought he was Luo, but he was Aluya. So I think most of these things have happened because of intermarriages and all that. So people tend to borrow. It's kind of interculture, like exchanging cultures and all that, and that comes from even name calling and all that, name giving and all that. So I think it's just a matter of intermarriages and exchanging cultures. I don't think there's a deep reason behind it. I think it's just intermarriages and exchanging cultures.
Yeah, and another thing to consider as well, because when it comes to DNA, like I've done a lot of research on DNA, and what Kenyans don't realize is that we're actually heavily mixed, especially if you compare us to our cousins in Sudan. Because if you look at like the typical Nilotic haplogroup is A. It's I don't know. It's A1B1. Okay, I'm not going to get into specifics, but basically what's happened is when we migrated down, we mixed with the neighboring tribes, and that's why our population is so big, because we pretty much absorbed other tribes and grown bigger. Because if you look at Sudan, there are not that many Luos still left in Sudan, and logically that doesn't make sense, because logically the largest group should be at the point of origin. And they've actually made DNA tests. If anyone's interested, I'll even send you the link. But they made DNA tests of different African groups in Africa, and they took the DNA of 9 Luos in Kenya, and their DNA was basically A, which is Nilotic, B, which is Nilotic, and then it was E1B1A, and that's a typical Bantu gene. So basically, 66% of their genes were Bantu, and the rest was Nilotic. So technically, Luo can even be a culture, because you have to look at it from a cultural perspective, because a lot of Luos are actually carry a lot of Bantu DNA. Even looking at myself, because my dad is dark-skinned, my mom is a bit more light-skinned, but she's not light, but for Luo she's quite light. And if you look at me, I'm quite light-skinned, but my siblings are dark. So there is something in there, and my sister even took a DNA test, and it turns out she was basically 19% West African, Nigerian, and we don't have any traces of Nigerian in our family line. So it must be some sort of, I'm imagining it's Bantu or something else. And then it was 6% Maasai, and the rest was Kenyan. So I assume Kenyan is Luo. Because it wasn't Luo doesn't have a specific, when you do a DNA test, you'll never get Luo. They just say Kenyan. So there has been a lot of mixing. We just don't talk about it. But the mixing goes back like several generations. It might not be 4 generations up. It might even be 6 or 7 or 8. But if everyone mixes, then obviously there's going to be a foreign admixture. And that might explain why a lot of Luyas speak the Luo, because we've been intermingling for generations, and especially with the Luya and the other Bantu tribes below as well. And it's the same thing if you look at different tribes, because the Kalenjin are mixed with the Kushitics. The Kikuyu, they're mixed as well. Because if you compare a Kikuyu to a Luya, you'll see a difference, a physical difference, because Luyas look more like Luos. They're dark, they're big, but Kikuyus are slimmer, slender. And if you compare a Kikuyu to a Bantu in the Congo, you'll see a difference, because the Bantus in the Congos are mixed with Pygmies. And if you go to the Bantus in South Africa, they're mixed with Khoisan. So they have a different phenotype as well. So even within Bantus, there's different traits. And even in Sudan, when you look at the Dinka and the Nuer, they have a percentage of Cushitic ancestry as well. It was roughly around 12%. So there's always been intermixing with different African tribes, but we don't talk about it. That's the thing. So it makes perfect sense to me.
Thank you for bringing out the very nice perspective of genetic makeup and our ancestry. And I think I don't have much to say. I don't have anything else to add to that. I mean, if someone else has something to add, please do. But that's very nice. And those who just joined us, just before we move on, thank you for bringing up that. That was very good and that was amazing. And for those who are just joining us, we have just completed the class which we were talking about vowels, and we were looking for words in the vowels. But for now, we are in a session where we have question and answer, and the questions can keep coming, the answers keep coming. I'm not an expert on anything. We are all experts together. So thank you so much for bringing that perspective. I mean, bring the gene perspective and the migration perspective is quite amazing. I also noticed that there are a few Luos in the border area. Like if you where we border the Luya, then there is a lot of intermarriage, and mostly the Luyas speak a lot of Luo, but the Luos don't speak so much of the Luya. I don't know whether that has something to do with the names that we keep changing. But we can move on now. Thank you so very much for bringing it up. All right. So any more questions before we wind up? Because we are on the winding up side, questions and answers. And these can be general Luo questions. They can be simple questions as just donation. They can be difficult questions like ancestry. And then we can find someone to answer them for us. And if you're joining us on YouTube and Facebook, you can always just write the channel. Oops. Sorry, I think I muted myself when I was speaking. So if you're joining us from Facebook and YouTube, you can always type your questions on the chat box, and then I will pass it over to the people in the club, and they'll be able to help us out. And the people in the club, if you once you talk, you'll be able to be heard from the other side.
For me, like this is not like a question, but it's one of African names. You know, for us, African names have like we are like always named according to origin. You know, the circumstances under which led to your birth. Maybe like the current situation, maybe when you're born during maybe famine, when there is no food, maybe when you're born, when people it's planting season. So like there is a lot of when it comes to naming, when it comes to African names, you know. But again, like it kind of feels like sad, you know, to see such names are dying off. Yeah, like more especially actually after the generation that will be after us, because like for me, I'm a millennial, you know. But again, like now, generation X, you know, these the kids that were born maybe after 2010, you know. Okay, I'm just like I always like look into the future and see like these names, some of these names will not exist, you know. But again, it's up to us, you know, because these names are who we are, you know. Like sometimes now, like when you take an example about my name, you know, my name is Bwire, you know. Okay, some people that are not African always find a very hard time pronouncing it. It's Bwire. Bwire, it means I was named according to the time, you know, the time of the day I was born. And like so many times now, like my father used to tell me like when it reaches that time, the time you were born, because now really means like I was born in the evening when it's coming to dark, you know. So like when you ever like want anything, you know, like that's your lucky time, you know. You know, when you ever wish for anything, you know, like you're going through some difficult times and you know, like you're wishing for something, you know, just always remember the time you were born, you know. Then just speak to yourself, just speak something that you wish. Like, that's how my father used to tell me. Yeah. So it kind of like makes me sad, like sometimes people my age and maybe people younger than me, even some older, okay, like even some people that are older than me, like they kind of like they have accepted these Western names. Like you find somebody's called Paul Johnson. And when it's Paul Johnson, you're looking at somebody as black as me, and when you ask him that, where are you from? He tells me, man, I'm a Ugandan, and, you try to trace for them, because some of these names are roots, you try to express your roots, but again, like I've said, people these days, are hating the names, but our names are so strong. Like, they always portray something bigger than us. That's why, like, sometimes when somebody is born, somebody just does not just name you. Like I always see in some movies, in Western movies, somebody is born in a hospital, then the father is there. There's, let's call her, she's a boy. He's a boy. Let's just call him maybe Edison, Edison Andrew. But for us, like, somebody, like in the early days, when somebody is born, like parents would go to spiritual healers, elders, this boy, we have produced this young offspring. Which name should we give him? Like, African names are just bigger than us, but again, like, it kind of like makes me sad that such names are dying off. Like, I just really, really wish we would promote our identities. Like, for sure. Yeah.
Kevin, thank you so much for bringing that perspective. And because we have some two ladies in the house, we have Sandra and Wajina. Wajina, I hope you're not yet asleep. Wajina is joining us from Australia, and it was midnight when she was joining us. So maybe if you're not yet asleep, can you maybe chip in and just talk about naming? And for you as a lady, what would you consider now that you're living in Australia, far away from the Luo people? What do you consider?
I agree with him because of our history, it made us to lose confidence as Africans. So those are the things that their identities, and they bring confidence. That is how I see it. Yeah.
And Sandra, if you want to just chip in. And also, you can tell us your practice. Like for you, if you have kids, how did you name them? Did you follow the Luo way? Did you go some other way? And maybe why,
I'm not children yet, but if I do, they'll be named African names.
Thank you so much. And Sandra, if you want to just chime in.
Hello?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we're just listening.
We're just listening. We can hear you.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
That's what I think for now. It's good. It's a good idea.
Yeah. And the other ladies in the house, maybe Sandra, if you want to chime in and just speak to us about the naming and what you'd consider in future or now, or what you've done before.
Thank you, Rashid, for this time. My son is named, has an African name, actually Ochieng. He was born at 1:42 p.m. So that's assumed the name Ochieng. Irrespective of the prejudices we undergo as Luos in the nation, where you find that somebody doesn't want to be called Atieno or Otieno because of the discrimination we experience. Personally, I will still name my children. I will like my children to assume the Luo names because I don't want to lose my identity at all. Neither would I like my children to lose their identity. And I am proud because my son is able to speak fluent Luo, unlike other children who reside in the cities or towns, you find that they are unable to communicate in Luo. Mine is fluent in Luo, and I am proud of that. I would urge more parents that we don't erode our identity by giving foreign names, etc. to our children. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. Ebony, if you can just chip in on this.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Ebony Arunga, and my Luo name is Atieno, and I tend to go by Usiku Atieno on social media. I think that for me, my mother is Black American and my father is Kenyan. We were all born in Kenya, and my mother was very specific about making sure that we understood who we are and where we came from. And she was the one out of our family, like my nuclear family always went to Dalat to see our grandparents and to engage with our culture specifically. So if you go to Kenya now and meet my family, none of them actually went to Dalat very often, but we did. And it was really important to my mother that our names, that we had Luo names. So Ebony is my first name. That is not a Luo name, obviously, but all of my siblings, we all have our Luo names. And it was very important to her. And she always questioned, and what we don't have are the biblical names. Like my father's name is David, right? But my mother always questioned why Luos were taking on these biblical names that were English names. And so she was very careful not to give us those. When I had my children, I have 3 children now, and it was interesting, someone was speaking just a moment ago about how we're named after the circumstances of our lives, and that we don't just choose a name for our child, like we allow the spiritual leaders, we allow certain situations to choose the name for our children. My children all had their names before they were born. My sons are twins, so I already knew that they would be Opio and Odongo. And my daughter is Akello because she followed the twins. So my children, I never had to give them names. Their names already just existed. And I just knew, but as soon as I was pregnant, and as soon as I knew, like, what their gender was, what their names would be. And for me, it was really important because I live in the U.S., that I gave my children the Luo names so that they could find their way back home, so that they could know who they are and where they come from. Because it's so easy to get lost in this society in the U.S. and to want to assimilate and be American and, like fit in and not be discriminated against and all of those things, that you can forget who you are very quickly. So it was just important to me that my children had those names. My nieces also have Luo names, or actually one of my nieces does not have Luo names. She has African names. Her name is Ashe Amaru. And then my other niece is Anyango. And so, so we've just been really intentional about making sure that our children are named with the Luo names, that they know how to find their way back to Kenya when, even if something happens to us, they'll know who they are and where they've come from. And so, that's my piece.
Amazing, amazing, 100%. Thank you so much for chipping in. Now, for the gentleman in the house, and how are you naming your kids? Those who have kids, those who are planning to have kids, what's going on? How are you naming your kids? Just give us a story. Who wants to go first?
I can go first.
Please do.
I'll definitely give my kids Luo names because, my parents never gave me a Luo name. They gave me an English first and a middle name. So I'm going to reverse that. And I'm actually considering even going back home and getting married just to get the cultural influence as well. Because for me, my parents moved back to Kenya. They only lived in Sweden for 20 years. And then they finally decided to move back. But for me, it creates a conflict because now I don't have anyone to teach me my culture, right? So I need someone to teach my kids because I don't want to pass along nothingness because over here, I'm just an immigrant. I don't have a culture. I don't have traditions. I'm just somewhere in the middle. So I think it's important that you actually bring something to your kids because otherwise they won't have any pride. They won't feel anything because growing up in a predominantly white society, it's hard for a black person to feel pride if you don't have anything to look up to. Because I didn't know anything about Kenya. The first time I visited Kenya, I was 8 years old. And it was like a blank slate because I didn't know anything about my heritage except for the stuff my parents had told me. And it was primarily the language. So I think it's really important that you give your kids, at least give them Luo names so they can feel a sense of pride and not shame. And I've been noticing a trend, like even my brother, like he has he doesn't have a Luo name either. He has both his names are British, right? So when he applied for university in Kenya, he rarely uses his last name because of discrimination. So he just uses his two first names just so they can identify him as a Luo. And it's a problem. It's a big problem because the tribalism is that's another topic. But you should never be ashamed of your heritage, no matter where you are. It's a thing of pride as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And anyone else wants to chip in and just talk to us about naming conventions, why you're naming your kids the way you're doing?
I'm just feeling what Felix feeling. Because he was born in Sweden, is it? You were born in Sweden?
No, that was me. That was me.
Yeah. So you were born in Sweden?
Yeah, I was born in Sweden.
Okay. Yeah, I really feel what you're saying because I also moved abroad as a child. But luckily for me, I left Kenya at an age at 8 years. So I had already picked up the language. And then when we moved abroad, my parents still continued speaking the language at home. So that's what helped me still know my mother tongue. Yeah. And I still speak Swahili a bit, not fluent. So I really understand what you mean. And because I grew up in this southern hemisphere of the world where there's very few Africans, and that identity issue, the confidence issue, you come here and sometimes there's just sometimes you really feel. I'm not saying it's not bad to integrate with the new culture, but at the same time, we still need our culture as well in the abroad to mingle with, to balance the two. And that's what sometimes Africans do not know back home when they migrate their children. And yes, it affected me in some ways too. So yeah, and I've seen it. So I really understand how you feel that they should have at least taught you things about the culture.
Amazing.
I once told my parents, can you stop mixing Dholuo and English because I am abroad and I don't have my community here to speak with Dholuo. So you two are the only people who will teach me. I told them. Because Kenyans are very typical of mixing Kiswahili, English, and their mother tongue. So I told my parents, who else is going to teach me Dholuo here if you two are mixing it? English and they changed.
And we thank God they did because now you can speak it.
It's called Ingluo.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And then they agreed. Okay, yeah, you are right.
Amazing. And so let's get some perspectives from David or Felix.
Was that Felix? Felix, you want to go first? I mean, Actually, here in the States, I did come here once I finished my undergrad. So I've been living here, but I really want to appreciate what Felix, I don't know, it's the F with the African map. What you said really touched me. And also, Wajina, what you said really touched me. I'm a parent of a Luo kid living in America, a black Luo kid living in America. And we brought him here. And the challenges, I'm telling you, are practical. But just emphasizing, letting them know that their laws is really important. We, as Kenyans, especially the baby boomers, I don't know if I'm a baby boomer because I didn't go that much when it comes to baby booming, but there has been all this mindset kind of mess or corruption or what we learned from the colonialism, that white is better, white education is better, white food is better, white lifestyle is better, white clothing is better, everything white is better. And therefore, it's like we are still on the PSD. So sometimes we tend to think that that is the best thing for our kids. But what I've learned, especially here living here, is that if you really do not show them who they are, if you don't really emphasize their identity and where they come from, they do lose self-confidence. And so I really appreciate when I heard it from F and from Wajina's log. To me, it was like a reassurance. So this thing is really true. So sometimes you don't hear it from kids saying it, but when you hear it I heard it from you, it really felt like yes. So this thing is true. So I do agree. I used to take the kids back home when they were young. Initially, when you come from the US and you go there sometimes, especially when you go to the village, they kind of like it when they are very young, but as they continue to get into 12, 13, 14, they kind of say, why is it dirty? Why is it so and so? But later, I'm really happy that I did so, because somehow they have now known this is where they came from, and they have to embrace it. They have to, just that is who they are. They can't run away from it. That is where they came from. So when I heard you speaking, I was really very proud of you, even to stand up and tell them, hey, stop, you really speak Dholuo, don't mix English. I mean, that is very brave, and I really commend you for that. And I'm now trying to teach my son Dholuo, because he has just come to appreciate it, that is who he is. So that is what I wanted to share. I think, to be honest, it is a different world. I'm very sure when you go to school, especially where you are in a Western world, people also see you differently. People also challenge you. And your friends are mostly people from that community. If it's a school, it's that people from that community. You speak mainly with their language, and when you come home, you have to adapt to what is going at home. So as parents, we have to balance. Do you move with Luo to the United States, or do you adapt to it gradually? I think that is the challenge. You definitely, if you come here as a Kenyan, do you move with your Kenyanism, everything that is Kenyan, to the US, or do you come here and learn and then readapt back? Mostly, if you come as a Kenyan with your Kenyanism, ni maneno. That's all I can say, because you will not reconcile. The credit system is different. Everything is different. You can't just go in and use your muscles to get what you want. You have to use the law, but you just have to learn from it and adapt and make sure that navigate this situation and make it practical for yourself. So thank you for sharing. That's what I wanted to share. Thanks.
Amazing, David. Thank you so much, David, for sharing that. I think I'm also facing the same challenges with my kids. But Felix will go first.
I like the trajectory of the conversation. I think basically what we all want is to preserve our culture. And I think when I get there, when I have my kids, I'll actually name them both Luo names, because I see the pride some of the prominent Luos take in using their Luo names in comparison to English or British names. So I think basically for preservation of culture and to identify with who I am and where I come from, that is the way to go. We have to name our kids our name, Luo names, and as we go forward, because again, the trend in our country right now is that people who are going for fancy Luo names, names that you cannot identify with, names that actually don't begin with an O, so that when it comes to maybe looking for work in the job market, you're not discriminated because you have that O.
I don't know.
You have another name that really cannot be identified as Luo. So the confidence, we should have the confidence to name them, to use our names. I think that is the only thing I can make. Rashid, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for bringing that up and just telling us about the future. We hope that everybody will, it's to make change, you must start from one person, and we are just starting by all. I know this conversation is going on in other spheres. People are usually just afraid of talking about it, about the naming and all that. But at the end of the day, we shall make change. We hope that change will come in the future. So if anyone else has a question that we need to tackle, maybe this would be and that's the last question for the day, and then we shall wind up. Anyone has something else we want to talk about?
I have a quick question about the room. It says Learn Luo Language live on Facebook and YouTube, and that was what drew me into this space. And so I was just curious about what that is, what that means.
So right now, if you go to Facebook and search for Luo English Dictionary, we are actually live. So we are live both on Facebook and YouTube, and we're also live on Clubhouse. So when we started by learning. So we were learning a few, today we were looking at the vowels. So we learned until from A through to J. And then after that, now we went into the question and answer session. And I think you popped in the question and answer session. So what we were doing is we were actually live in both Facebook and YouTube. Actually, we are still live right now.
Thank you.
Yes, and
How often do you do this often?
This is the first time. This is the first day, and we are planning. We want to get feedback, so that we can know what to do, so that we do the right thing that people actually want to do. Like, we want to put out content that people want to consume. We don't want to just go live because we want to go live, So your feedback on this and how to learn, how to do this, it would be very, very much appreciated.
Thank you so much.
Great. And meanwhile, please consider following the group. Consider following the club, those who've not followed the club, so that when you go live, you can get notifications, and you can always pop in, pop out, and feel free to just give us your perspective of the learning. So we have a few videos in Facebook. We have a few playlists, different types of playlists in Facebook. If you're learning Luo, you can always go in there and pick the playlist that you want, and just watch the videos and just improve your diction, improve your pronunciation, and stuff like that. And because is there any other question before we make the call? Great. So it has been very humbling having you with me. Wajina, thank you so much for not sleeping and being with us. You have a great night as you sleep. Sandra, I know it's almost 7 o'clock in Kenya. Thank you so much. My friend from Sweden, I don't know what time it is there.
It's 6 p.m. So it's afternoon.
Yeah, thank you so much. You have a great evening as you proceed. Dave, which side of the US? Are you in the east?
I'm in the eastern.
Okay.
East Coast.
So, so you're preparing your lunch right now. And Felix, are you in Kenya, Felix?
Yeah, I'm in Kenya.
Yeah.
Actually in Nairobi.
So you're watching news. What Raila did today?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And Ebony, which part of the US?
I'm on the West Coast. It's 9 a.m.
So it's 9 a.m. You just taking your breakfast.
Yeah.
All right. So guys, thank you so much for just joining us in this conversation, and tell everybody about this. JRL on YouTube, you say thank you. We also thank you for joining us. And Moshe Ojanga on Facebook, thank you so much. Maureen, thank you. Weaverbird, thank you so much. And who else have I not mentioned? If I've not mentioned your name somehow, and there is Lawrence who is down on the other side, and Bernard, thank you so much for this opportunity, and we'll see you guys next Sunday. Alrighty.